It's generally an accepted fact that leaning into your run is good running form. But how much should you lean? Can you lean too much? Can you lean too less? But it's kind of the topic of a paper published on May 29th in PLOS One, the Public Library of Science, where researchers investigated the degree of lean when we run versus running economy, or how much energy we burn. Welcome to the Ageless Runner. I'm Ralph. So these researchers were from the University of Southern California here in the United States, and also the California State Technological University, where they took a group of 16 runners. These were men and women, and they were runners because they said they could run a 5K in 22 minutes or less. So that's a pretty good runner in my mind. And so they had them do running on a treadmill, where they had them run with 3 different degrees of leaning: a max lean of 8 degrees, no lean, and then a middle lean, in, roughly 4 degrees in the center. Now, if you're wondering what is 8 degrees of lean, I'm trying to show you as best I can myself in my home here what 8 degrees of lean looks like. So trigonomically, doing a little trig, if I'm standing upright and I aim forward 8 degrees at my height, my head would go forward about 10 inches or 25 centimeters. So that's roughly 8 degrees of lean. Now, what they measured on these runners was oxygen consumption and carbon dioxide output, and that's how they calculated energy. But they also looked at what they called kinematics of the run. They looked at how they move their legs, how they move their knees and their hips, and what muscles are being activated as part of the data gathering of understanding, does lean make a difference in running economy? And these runners ran for 5 minutes at roughly 7.5 minute per mile pace, which is roughly a 440 pace for a kilometer. But they were scientists. They randomized the test. They made sure they had equal amounts of rest between runs, tried to make the test as consistent as possible, except for lean angle. And they also had what I would call biofeedback, where the runners could see themselves on a monitor, so they could kind of keep the lean angle as consistent as they could during this 5-minute run. So researchers generated a lot of data, but I'm more focused on this idea of running economy. How much energy do we burn when we run? And there's one graph in this study I want to pull out and show you that explains the whole conclusion of the study. And the conclusion of the study and the conclusion of this graph is that the more you lean in your run, the more energy you burn. And also, it doesn't matter whether you lean from your waist or your ankles. It just didn't make a difference. But the more you lean, the more energy you're going to burn. And that's what this graph says. So just to explain this graph, the horizontal axis is lean angle. That's degrees. The more you lean, the more you are to the right on the graph. And then the vertical axis is the power. They call it net metabolic power, which is watts per kilogram. So the higher you go up in the graph, the more energy you're burning. And I want to start and look at this lower left-hand set of data, and that's a little diamond with a vertical line. The vertical line I'm going to call a tall, skinny capital I. So that's no lean. That's the base case. And so the diamond is kind of the average, and that vertical line I call the tall, skinny capital I. That's the range of data. Let's move to the next point to the right, that middle set of data. That's the middle lean. And you can see the energy went up a little bit, but not a lot. And if you look at their tall, skinny eye, you can see there's a lot of overlap between that data and the no lean data. And the researchers said the difference between the middle lean and no lean is not statistically significant. In other words, it's not that difference may not be due to leaning, could be due to just random test data, that particular way they did the run. So the energy we expend leaning, say up to 4 degrees, isn't a whole lot different than not leaning at all. But then we really want to focus on that last set of data, the data on the right there, that is the maximum lean. That's around the 8 degrees, a little over 8 degrees. And you can see it's definitely higher than the other two. And the researchers said that difference is statistically significant. In other words, that's a real difference. That difference is due to the amount of lean. And that difference is roughly 6 to 9%. So they discovered that we burn 6 to 9% more energy when we have that maximum lean than if we don't lean at all or lean a little bit. And you'll see a couple of points on there. You'll see the solid circle and the upside down diamond. Those are the average of whether we lean from the ankle or whether we lean from the waist. And you can see they're very similar in both the middle lean and the maximum lean. And that's why the researcher said it doesn't matter where you lean, whether you lean from the waist or you lean from your ankles, the amount of energy you burn is about the same. And the more you lean, the more energy you burn. Now, before we talk about what does this mean to you and me, we need to ask the question, well, why do we burn more energy when we lean more? Well, again, remember I said the researchers looked at the kinematics of the run, how we were using our muscles and our joints and so forth. And what they discovered is the more you lean, the more we use our hip flexor muscles, the muscles around our hips, especially our glutamus maximus, the glutes, those what I call the butt muscles. We use those more the more we lean. So they theorized because we're using them more, we're activating those muscles more, we're burning more energy. So what this means to you and me is if you're doing a long run, you're doing a long race, and you want to conserve energy, which I like to do, it means don't lean too much in your run. Keep your run to only a few degrees of lean. The more upright you are, the less you're going to burn. Doesn't matter where you are upright, you're leaning maybe 2 to 4 degrees. That seems to be about the same according to this study. And it is one caveat. This is one study with only 16 runners. But the data at that max lean, that 8 degrees, seems pretty convincing. It was statistically different. So I think it is true that the more you lean, the more energy you burn. So think about if you lean a lot in your run, maybe backing off a little bit in your long runs, running a little more upright or just a few degrees. Because we burn less energy, ideally we'll be less tired at the end of our run, and we'll enjoy our run more. If we're not working as hard, we're not burning as much energy, we'll enjoy our run a little more. So use this data as you see fit in your life, in your running life. If you want to study the data a little more, I'll put a link down below to the report. There's a lot more information in it. Again, it is written by scientists, so it's not always straightforward and understandable, but use it as you'd like. It is down there for your review. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here today. And if you enjoyed this video and liked it, please hit that like button. And if you're new here, I'd love to have you stick around. Please subscribe also. Thank you so much and happy running.